Greetings Geo Nerds, here we are on the banks of beautiful Kedron Brook. We're going to go up the creek, as in up the brook. There's a beautiful brook as you see here right now. It's going to take us 3 videos though, because it's a long way. We're going to do a bit of a fly through, which you'll see, and we're going to go up till it's a nice little babbling brook and goes right through, right up to the back of nearly Sanford. We're going to walk all along its banks through Kedron here, which is where it gets its namesake. So this is the first of 3 videos, and we're going to end up right up here at the source. There's the source, the nice little green stripe there, ends in someone's driveway. Oh, there's my cat. Look at that. Said hello. Hi, cat. Anyway, let's get to it. You know what I'm going to say. Let's rock. Hey Geo Nerds, just a quick thank you to all the new subscribers. The YouTube algorithm takes no prisoners, and this is a fairly narrow content channel, so it's never going to get on the algorithm. So if you know any friends who think might like this material, please flick them my way. Anyway, as was once said, overture, curtains, lights, this is it, you'll hit the heights. I know what heights you'll hit. On with the show, this is it. Also, as I learn more about the colonial history of Brisbane, I feel I really need to say this. I begin today by acknowledging the Turrbal people, traditional custodians of the land in which we live today, and I pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and acknowledge that they got royally dicked by my ancestors. I take no pride in the knowledge of what was done to these people and recognise their pain. My ancestors came from Northern Ireland, a land not too unfamiliar with land theft, murder and genocide. It just seems a shame we seem to want to do it all again here. So here we are in the hills above Cooney Grove Station. It just rises there. You'll see that in the Walkabout. We go down these little valleys, down through where the old Ferny Grove railway line used to go, or the Sanford railway line, the Sanford line. So this thing meanders through the northern suburbs of Brisbane. I'll give you a list of the suburbs because it's pretty impressive. Ferny Grove, Capera, Groverley, Mitchelton, Gaythorne, Everton Park, Enoggera, Alderley, Stafford, Grange, Gordon Park, Kedron, Lutwich, Wooloowin, Kalinga, Toombul, not a suburb I might add, Clayfield, Nunda, Ascot, Pinkenbar. Then it gives Northgate a nudge, Banyo, Nudgee, and ends up at Nudgee Beach. So this thing really does get around. At Clayfield it becomes the Shulls Canal, then the Kedron Brook floodway, and it flows out into Moreton Bay at Nudgee Beach, which we'll again see later on. This brook descends 220 metres and it's 29 kilometres long. It's got a catchment area of 110 square kilometres. So as you can see, this catchment area has some serious rock in it, which we'll see in the geography section. It soaks up rain the way concrete doesn't. So if it rains really seriously, and it does quite often in this area, this brook becomes a raging torrent, as you'll also see evidence of in the Walkabout videos. So anyway, we're just going to pull back into Moreton Bay. We're just going along what is now the Kedron Brook floodway right there. There's the old Nudgee Golf Course, Gray's Farm as it used to be called. And we're just going up Nudgee Beach, pull out into the bay so you get an idea of where it is. And what we'll do now is we'll go and have a look at the geology that it runs through. Hey Geo Nerds, here we go now. The rest of this video covers the lower Kedron Brook, which is the bit you can see in this satellite image. Let's have a look at the geology of the most of Kedron Brook, and then you can see it covers a lot of geographic regions. So what we'll do is we'll keep it simple, and we'll just have a look at the lower geographic regions. And you've got a big span of time here. If you look at this diagram, you can see we've got that dark green there is the Woogaroo group, which is Jurassic. You've got the Brisbane tuff, and over there which is 250 million years. The geology here covers a lot of area. Here's a LiDAR. That's where the old coal mine was there, the Nunda coal mine. See my video on that. That's the Kedron Park Bridge, and that's Toombul Shopping Town. There's imprint in the thing. You can see it's a fairly distinct channel. Here we are down at Nudgee Beach. I won't say Crib Island. Oh, I already said it. But anyway, as you can see in 1971, the coast looked like that. Now it looks like that. Kedron Brook floodway, we want to move dirt. That little red ring is where I was standing when I shot the intro to this. So you can see that's a massive opening there. And the channel, they just cut back towards basically Toombul. Nudgee Beach Road has been moved slightly. It doesn't quite look like that anymore. And here we've got a 1936 shot of the Toombul area. Up in the top left there, that's the coal mine, still active. Or the scar of it is, I don't think it was still working then. So yeah, and you can see the original creek. There's Toombul Shopping Town there, that's where it goes. Creek running right through the shopping town. And that's the Sandgate Road Bridge, to give you an idea of where we are. And you can see the scar of the creek still there quite plainly, and all of the little billabongs. You're going to see a map in a minute from the Zion mission, and you'll see all those billabongs on that map. I'll bring this back up again when that happens. And on our walkabout, if we need it, we'll have a look at it too. Here's our good old topographical map. There's a Zion Hill there, you can just see it faintly. There's not a lot to see. That's where the coal mine is there. There just isn't a lot to see because it's very flat down here. The topos don't show much. And I've got this lower LiDAR here, and I just thought I'd zoom down. You can see the shape of Toombul Shopping Centre there. And this is actually Zion Hill. It stands out a little bit. You can see the graveyard there just above it. And you can see why they chose it. It's actually a really good spot. It's near the brook, so you can get water. And it's also near the Aboriginals coastal. That Headley Street that you've seen in all of those things was the Aboriginal coastal pathway when they were migrating up and down the coast. So yeah, these guys were pretty switched on as far as location goes. So before European settlement, the area we now call Nunda was inhabited by Aboriginal people from the Turrbal and Yagara tribes. And they were probably there for 20,000 years on and off, because as sea level rose and fell, the coast would have overcome this area and gone right in as far as what we know as Kedron and Wavell Heights today, and as far out as the other side of Moreton Island. And the Aboriginal people were here that whole time. The name Nunda is derived from an Aboriginal word describing the area that became known, what we know as Downfall Creek. And that's another video I'm doing on that area. It's a little bit north of here, but that's what Nunda meant. Originally, the idea of establishing a mission there in the Moreton Bay district came from John Dunmore Lang. Now, he was a Presbyterian minister in Sydney, self-promoted to some degree, politician. He'll tell you more himself in a little while, but he wanted to save the Aboriginal souls. He also wanted the Ching from bringing in immigrants, and he needed the Aborigines pacified so that, they didn't kill and eat his new settlers, and made his life a lot easier. They didn't have to run around clearing them out and murdering them, which they in fact did. So he managed to get a bunch of Germans, and the Zion Hill mission was opened between April and June of 1838, manned by Presbyterians, Lutherans and Pious. The area was originally known as German Station, and there was 11 of them there, and another 2 joined later on in 1844. The mission was a bit of a failure. Ludwig Leichhardt visited in 1843, and he was very dismissive and says, the missionaries, to quote him, "The missionaries have converted no blackfellows to Christianity." Ludwig Leichhardt's words. And because the government was subsidising this, they were giving them the money to survive with, and they couldn't be self-sufficient. And it was finally disbanded in 1848. So the photos you see later, which of that area, there's been no missionary there for well over 100 years. And unfortunately, it witnessed the most destructive decade of all the destructive decades for the Aboriginal people in Moreton Bay area. Well, this is King Sandy. He's of the Turrbal, Mubara, Bubapera, Yuggera clans in Brisbane, and he was recorded to have died in 1900. So this guy went through the worst of the worst. This is a little map showing you some of the Aboriginal places. So you have up near the cemetery, there was Aboriginal camps there. Over in Kalinga Park, Shaw Park, Mercer Park, and you'd see why it's a beautiful place now, and it was a beautiful place then. You can see where Zion Hill is there in their map, and we'll see more about that in a minute. There isn't a lot known about the detailed Aboriginal history of this area for the usual reasons. No one bothered. This is a very old map. It's from the 1840s, and this is Zion Hill. You can see the reservoir structure and whatever there, and there's a reserve there for the cemetery. And this is where the missionaries first came, and they set up camp up on this hill, flood-free of course. You can see the old billabongs. You can see those billabong structures still on the 2020 map I'm going to show you in a bit. So it was well and truly an amazing place. Here's a 1971 map. You can see the scar of the old river, but also I'll put a ring on here as to where the missionary was. That Elisa Street is still there. You can go there, and yeah, these missionaries met well, and we'll go into them in a little more detail. They really were a failure. The missionary started in 1838, and it really was wound up. It was really wound up and gone by 1848, so it really didn't do too well. Here's that same photo you saw before, and I'm just going to put where the mission. You can see that if you look with the eye of Horus, I'm sure you can see lumps and bumps on the ground there. This is from 1936, so I'm sure you can see the old marks, even though it had been gone for 100 years then. That's obviously a modern farm built on top of it, but the road is, the entry to that farm is in exactly the same place where the missionary was. There were 11 men came out to start this missionary. Another 2 joined them later on. Their names will become, they already are, common names on the north side of Brisbane because half the roads are named after them. But we'll hear from them in a bit. And here's a 2022 map of the area, just so that you can see where it is on the map. Not that you can go there because someone lives there. There's the old cemetery still. That's worth a wander around. It's a really cool place, and there it is. And the mission was right there. And before I researched this, I had completely the wrong idea of where this mission was. I don't know where I got it from. I presume they'd be up on the hill with the Catholics, but they weren't. They were down here because they were here to save the heathens. Anyway, I'll tell you a little more about them, but you're probably best to hear from the men themselves, and the one who organised it all was John Dungmore Lang.
Hello, my name is John Dungmore Lang. I was born in 1799 at Greenock, Scotland. I'm a Presbyterian clergyman, politician and immigration organiser. It was my idea to establish a Christian mission in the Moreton Bay district, to Christianise and pacify the local Aborigines, to make the process of colonisation less dangerous for my settlers.
This is Peter Naquay. He was a Mason, and he was one of the original 11 who rocked up. And all of these men seemed like pretty good guys. And this is a guy called Auguste Road, also another pretty good guy, and he was a cabinet maker. So, they're all pretty good, and there's a few more blokes here. Let's hear what they have to say.
Guten Tag, my name is Christopher Epper. I was born in 1813 in Germany. I studied to be a Lutheran missionary but would not submit to a bishop. So he became a Presbyterian, came to Australia and decided to save the Aborigines of Moreton Bay.
Wie geht's? Mein Name ist Johann Zielmann. I was born in Prussia in 1813. I am a Lutheran and a blacksmith, and I come to Australia to save the Aborigines' souls.
So, Geo Nerds, where did Kedron get its name from? Well, it's named after the Kedron Valley in Jerusalem. In front of us you can see the Dome of the Rock, Mount of Olives behind. Actually behind this camera is Zion Hill, and the valley between those two places is the Kedron Valley. The Golden Gates there and all the other things, and here's a geological map. It's all sedimentary, basically limestone and sandstone, and you can see the Kedron Valley running through the middle there, Mount of Olives on the right, Dome of the Rock in the middle. So Kedron was right on the outskirts of Brisbane. As you can see by these images of the creek the way it was, the brook the way it was. It was a beautiful natural waterway, but it had some interesting residents. And I think what we will do is we will hear from one of them in his own words, or thereabouts.
Well, hello. My name is Alfred James Peter Lutwich. I was born in 1810 at Worcestershire, England. I was the first judge of the Supreme Court of Queensland. I fought for the working man, the rule of law, and against political corruption. I sought no honours and received none.
So Lutwich's home was Kedron Lodge, and here it is, just after the turn of the century, built out of beautiful Helidon sandstone, and was sitting on quite a lot of land in those days, with most of which has been cut up now and turned into a housing development, and it's at the modern suburb of Kalinga, and no guesses, it's somewhere down near Lodge Street, Kent Street actually, but Lodge Street's right near it. Here's an aerial shot of it. I'll put a ring around it for you so you can see where it is. Now part of the Catholic something or other, and here's the house from the street. A beautiful, handsome place it is. Still there, you can go and see it, drive past it for free, I suppose, private residence. So there you go, Alfred Lutwich, an amazing guy, an amazing house, Kedron Lodge. Now hang on, boys and girls, this is a bit of a ride. Alfred Lutwich died in June of 1880. Now, there is a cemetery called the Lutwich Cemetery, which is actually at Kedron, and Alfred Lutwich is buried at Lutwich, but not in the cemetery. He's at St Andrews over at Lutwich is where his grave is. Great looking grave, made out of beautiful pink granite. So yeah, Lutwich is not in the Lutwich Cemetery at Kedron, he's in the St Andrews Church at Lutwich. Simple, eh? Hey folks, here we are down at Nudgee at the entrance to the Jim Sawley bikeway, and we're going to start walking this bikeway because this bikeway follows what used to be Kedron Brook. It is now, of course, Schulz's Canal, and we'll have a look more about that in a bit. So a lot of history down here, very old part of Brisbane from farming point of view. All the farming's being destroyed now, replaced with airports and golf clubs and whatever, but hey, that's progress. Anyway, let's have a look. Well folks, here's the original road surface, and you can tell it's an old road because it's made out of crushed tuff. Look at the rocks underneath this. This is a very old bitumen, and underneath it is a cobble of tuff. And this is one of the original farm roads that led to the farms down here before the canal was punched through the middle of it. We'll have a look at that in a minute. But here's the old road from, I would say, that tooth service is probably the 1920s, 30s. That bitumen was probably a little later. But yeah, a piece of history still here, which probably nobody recognises. Down on the banks of Kedron Brook, Schulz's Canal, whatever you want to call it. It's really Schulz's Canal, this is not Kedron Brook. Kedron Brook was never this wide or deep or straight. And we're standing on the end of that farm road, and I just thought I'd show you the cobble that the road is made out of. And it is definitely made out of Brisbane tuff, and I'll go so far to say probably somewhere over in Windsor. There's a lot of purple and pink in there with iron staining. And it's obviously garbage. It's just stuff that they had broke up for exactly this, road beds. It does a great job. This road could be 60, 70 years old. It's still perfectly good condition. Bitumen's gone, but the tuff bed is still here. Anyway, let's move on. Here we are, folks, down behind the Nudgee Golf Club. And say what you like about golf clubs, because I've got nothing positive to say about them. But this is the bike track. And I just thought I'd show you the forest that's here. Now this is all pretty much one variety of tree, the she oak, which is an amazing tree. These things grow from the beach on Fraser Island through to Ayers Rock. Different varieties, but it's the same plant. Now, have a look at what's here. I'm going to give you another look at it. Have a good look at it, because all these trees are almost exactly the same size, because they're all the same age. Because this was farmland. This grew pineapples, and it was just abandoned and recovered for golf clubs and airports and things like that. So yeah, we were growing food here, right in the middle of Brisbane. You can hear the freeway. We're not far from the freeway right now. And we were growing food here up until about the 1950s. So there, she oaks. Not my most favourite tree. If anyone's ever got out of bed in the morning, got out of their tent and stepped on a she oak cone with no shoes on, you'll know what I mean. Just thought I'd show you this. This is a little salt meadow here, full of salt grass and this red sludge. And there's lots of it here. And it's got iron oxide floating on it. Now, there's one over here we can get a bit closer to. As you can see, there's a salt crust here. But look at this iron oxide. This stuff is really red. We'll talk more about that, but this is, I think, a result of sulfate soils. And I don't want to prattle on because I don't know the technical side of this stuff, but I will look it up and we'll have a talk about this very soon because it's kind of important. Can't say I'm a huge fan of golf clubs, a bit elitist for my liking, but I will tell you they're pretty to look at. See the Catholic Seminary, Catholic University over there in the background at Nudgee. Over the road there on the other side of the creek we see a stand of Norfolk pine by the look of it, and a nice big fig tree in the middle of mangroves, she oaks and a few eucalypts, not many. What makes me think that was a farmhouse, eh? And that Norfolk pine would be about 30, 40 years old. That fig's probably 40 or 50 years old. Remember, they don't grow very fast down here. This is pretty crappy soil. We'll have a look at that on a map. Well, folks, this is the old Schulz's Canal still. As you can probably hear in the background, we're coming up towards the freeway. We're about to go under it. And, yeah, we'll start to get into some of the old farming country soon. Well, folks, this is an awesome new bridge across this little creek. Might be Nudgee Creek, I'm not quite sure, we'll look that up. And next to it
is the old bridge. That would have been from the original farm road that was here. It's really quite old. Gabions down there retaining the creek bank. It's falling in. And those timbers look quite old. Bolts, timbers, railway irons, or big RSJs actually. Look pretty good. Anyway, let's keep going. There we are, folks. The old Kedron Brook's getting a little bit narrower. Well, there's the Kedron Brook. There's another tributary coming in from the airfield. These are old rivers and creeks that were already here. They've just been expanded. And yeah, she's starting to get a bit narrow. We're getting there. We're about 2 kilometres from Toombul shopping centre, so yeah, it's getting narrow.
Well, folks, we're just walking along here, and if you look on the other side of the creek here, you can see these layers of sediment. That is hundreds and hundreds of floods over hundreds of years. Put that there. You can see it in this bank as well. And yeah, you know, it just we got to start thinking in geological time before we start carving this country up like this, because the flood that's just gone through here has just put another layer of sediment over it, and you know, Indooroopilly shopping town and half of northern Brisbane. So anyway, onwards. Well, folks, that big green shed over there was built to store the spoil from the M7 tunnel. And this is the bridge going, the freeway going over here, but look at the undercut on these foundations. These foundations have been, I'm sorry about that, they have been just undercut and torn to shreds. So I little doubt there's going to have to be some remedial work done on this, because I wouldn't call that structurally sound anymore. But anyway, I'm sure smarter and more highly paid people than I are considering this situation. But yeah, I'd say that little island there is all their anti-scour gone. Anyway, onwards. Well, here we are, folks. We're just coming up towards Zion Hill, which is where the missionary was. We're just walking past it now on the banks of the creek, and it's a beautiful place, but there's not much to see. I was going to walk up and film it for you, but there's nothing there, just people's houses. But anyway, so we'll continue on, and we'll come up, and what we got coming up next is the Toombul Shopping Centre, or the remains of Toombul Shopping Centre. So more in a bit. Well, we're just coming up to what was Toombul Shopping Centre, and here we have a brand new car wash that's been built on what is labelled still on the maps as Zion Hill Park. And I'm just wondering how much you have to pay to build a car wash in what was a public park. And here's the river here. You can see the floods have worked their magic on the anti-scour, but anyway, they'll just put some more in there. And here's that car wash, and that hill there is the back end of Zion Hill, and there's a car wash built in a park. But as you can see, they're kind of smart. And here's the old Toombul Shopping Centre. It's a bit sad. Had some wonderful days there in my time. Used to be a great sizzler upstairs there, and a Bunnings and some cinemas, and it was a great centre. But as I'll put up in a minute, a river flows through it. There was a creek went through this shopping centre that they filled in and diverted. And when the floods came, it didn't forget where it used to flow, and it went straight through it. I'll drop a map up on the screen for you. So this is now abandoned, and they are going to demolish it. I've heard since I actually shot this, that they are demolishing this and it is being replaced with a combination of residential and retail. So I hope it's a Japanese style development with residential on top and retail on the bottom, but let's hope they put a car park on the bottom, because this floods. It has done. I've been in Brisbane since 1933 and I cannot remember the number of times that this car park has flooded. But anyway, it is a shame, because it was a really great, when I worked as a kid, I worked on the original fiberglass arches for this when I was a kid after school at Zilmere. I think we were repairing them or replacing them, I can't remember what it was, but they were tangerine fiberglass arches, I remember that. Anyway, that was in another eon. So we're just coming up now, heading towards us, the air train going over the top here, of course. The Schulz's Canal, or the Kedron Brook floodway, I don't care what you call it. It was Schulz's Canal, and now it's labelled Kedron Brook floodway. Probably more appropriate. We're just going to head up here to where Kedron Brook actually starts, and I think that will be well and truly worth seeing. And we've got some interesting stuff coming up. Let me have a look here. I love the way they painted these pillars on this air train. It's fantastic. It really is. They should have put a station here so you could get off here. A good idea. Anyway, doesn't matter anymore, does it? Onwards and upwards. Well, folks, it's Toombul railway station over there. And here's Sandgate Road with the air train going over the top. And underneath it is, let's come over here. This is Schulz's Canal. And that over there is Kedron Brook. Schulz's Canal finishes here. Let's go and have a look. It's interesting to see all the anti-scour that they've put around the pylons has all been removed. All that riffraff. It's good up that end. Down this end, she's been washed away. Well, we're doing a bit of work on that, I think. Undercutting your pylons is not a good plan. We're standing under Sandgate Road now, and it's fairly complex. Here we're under Sandgate Road. That's the air train going over the top there. And in the background there you can see the main Northern line. There goes the air train. Oh, how good's that for timing? Anyway, there's the air train going over the top. Here's Kedron Brook underneath. And poking through those she oaks over there is the entrance to the M7 tunnel. So it's all happening here at, well, what we call Toombul. It isn't really Toombul. It's Clayfield on that side of the creek. It's Nunda on this side of the creek. Toombul is the name of a railway station. But anyway, I think they used to call this creek the Toombul Reach, but it isn't the name of a suburb in Brisbane. We're on the bike path here, folks, heading up towards Kedron. Well, there's Kedron Brook next to us, looking much more like a brook, not an industrialised drainage canal. Up in front of us here is the old Nunda coal mine. We watched a video on that. We've done one, but anyway, we'll do a little bit of it again. Here we are again, Geo Nerds, this time walking along the banks of good old Kedron Brook. And this is Kedron Brook. And it's starting to look a little bit more like a proper little brook. So we're just coming up to the Nunda coal mine. I'm not going to spend any time there today because of course we've done a whole video on it, so go back to the playlist. I'll stick a link down the bottom if you want to learn about the Nunda coal mine. And we've got to get cracking because this is a 20-kilometre creek and we just started, so let's go.
This is Kedron Brook and a nice bridge here, and here's a sign, and this sign, they mean it. In flood this will be well over my head here, well over my head. Well folks, over on the other side of the creek there, we're on the south side of the brook, and over on the other side of the brook there is the old Nunda coal mine. It's all closed at the moment because the floods went through and wiped it out, but there's a good video in my playlist. You just got to go and watch it, all about that mine and its history, and I quite enjoyed doing it. So there it is, there's a plaque over there, there's a little seat next to the plaque, and it's a really cool place. If you're down this way, you should come and have a look at it. Folks, across the creek here we can see these sedimentary shelves, and this is the Walkabout formation, the Ipswich coal measures, and this creek cuts right through it here. It's the same formation that the looks like rope swing there, people having some fun. That creek over in the corner there, by the way, goes back to right up to Edinburgh Castle, up to where the old Webster's biscuit factory used to be. And of course Walkabout, which was the Aboriginal word for what we call now Wacol, which is where they first found the formation, of course. And zoomed up a bit here to give you a slightly better shot of it. Obviously sedimentary. It consists of sandstones, shales, mudstones, coals, and oil shales, etc. The same stuff I found under the boot factory if you look at my video on the boot factory. Well, here we are in Shore Park, and oh god, look who's coming. Quick, hide, pretend you didn't see him. Okay, we just got to walk past. As you can see, this is not live audio. It was too windy. It was horrible, so I'm doing it again. But anyway. And the jolly green giant came lolloping along. There we go. See ya. There you T-Rocks. That's a heavy pack, by the way, guys. I have 2 video cameras and a tripod in there. It weighs about 25 kilos. It's not heavy when you pick it up, but it gets heavy after 6 or 7 hours of walking, I'll tell you that. But anyway, can't complain. No one forces me to do it, and I really, really enjoy it. So yeah, that's Shore Park. Beautiful place. The creek up here, by the way, is absolutely fantastic. It's just a little crystal clear stream. It's really nice. It hadn't been raining at all, so it's just a really pretty place. And about every 50 metres along here, there's a swimming hole with a rope hanging out of it. Here we are, folks. We're in Shore Park. And here's my favourite tree to hate on, the African chalk. Beautiful tree. Kills native bees. Missed that one. Let's have a look at another one. There we go. A few little insects down in there, and they're dead. Because the nectar on these things is poisonous to insects. It's a nasty trick. It's certainly poisonous to Australian insects. So anyway, you see these things, if you got one in your yard, cut the stupid thing down. Beautiful tree, don't get me wrong, but they just don't belong here. Well, here we are, folks, a Shore Road bridge, not really a bridge, more of a culvert, over Kedron Brook. And they look like really big culverts because they are. And the reason they're really big is when this little baby wants to flood 2 meters over that bridge, even more at times. So it's a beautiful creek. It has a bit of a temper. Well folks, let me introduce you to Kedron Brook's next gravel bar. These are fairly large, I'd say 2 or 3 ton granite blocks, probably from Capera. Being sat here to obviously is erosion mitigation, and as you can see, it's not working. 2 of them have fallen out there already into the river, into the creek. More will. The whole lot will eventually. It'll undercut them and the gravity will just pull them down into the river. We just don't learn, do we? This land was put here by this creek. It didn't fall out of the sky. It came down in the creek. Flood after flood after flood. Over thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, put this land here. We're sitting on river soil. And when it wants it back, it'll take it back. And of course, what have we done? This is not the original creek. We'll have a look at the original creek from the 1800s on a map. This is a drain they've dug straight as a die. What happens to water velocity in a drain? In a straight line, it goes up and it starts to carve and scour. And the creek tries to meander. It tries to, but the stupid concrete blocks and all the granite blocks slow it down. So it just goes straight and makes the floods worse. Anyway, what would I know? I'm just a geo nerd. Well folks, we're coming up towards Kedron on the Kedron Brook bikeway. You see the tower in the background there, that's the State Emergency Services headquarters. Very important piece of infrastructure in Queensland. As you'll see from a map that I'll put up, this is a drain, but it is pretty. Now Kedron's on Toof. Kedron and Lutwyche, we'll talk about Judge Lutwyche if we haven't already, depending on the order I put this video together in. And Kedron, we've already talked about that, I think. Anyway, this is on Toof, so this is hard rock up there. You'll notice the sides are getting steeper. No more big plains and whatever, because that rock up there, those houses are on, is hard stuff. We will have had a geology map already, but you can always flip back and have a look at that. But yeah, we're getting into it, and you'll see in the background there, there's some higher country. That's Gordon Park. That's also on Toof. She's hard stuff. And although these creeks are quite capable of following fault lines and going in a straight line, this is not. This has just been cut. Anyway, onward and upward. Well folks, we're just coming up to the Gympie Road crossing of Kedron Brook. There's a bit going on here. You've got Gympie Road on this side. On the other side you've got the Northern Busway. And underneath this, about 20 metres down, you've got a tunnel that takes the Stafford Road entrance to the M7 through to the tunnel. So there you go. A bit complicated. Oh, and of course you've got the bike path and the footpath. And then the creek. So yeah, it's a really interesting part of Brisbane. Let's have a look, see if we can see any evidence of the Toof, because I know this is on Toof, but I think we're on quite a bit of gravel here. We might not see too much evidence of it. Let's see what we can find.
Hey Geo Nerds, that's it. The video's done. This is the first of 3 on Kedron Brook. This is a really, really long creek. And as you've probably seen in the flyby at the intro, we're going to walk this from the sea to its source. Matter of fact, I'm going to walk it. You're going to come along for the ride. Matter of fact, I've already done it. we've just got so much video, and I can't make these videos too long. This one's at 50 minutes, which is too long, but what do I cut out? Every time you touch anything, there's more history, there's more interesting people. So, no, we will not compromise quality for time. If it takes longer, it takes longer. It's not like we're paying by the hour. So it's a very interesting creek, and there's the really interesting bits are still to come. We've got a lot more history in the next section, which will be the Middle Creek, and the Upper Creek we will also do, because that's again a separate section. They'll be a bit shorter than this one, maybe. I'm not sure. I've shot a lot of footage, but I don't know how much of it's any good. I've got to watch it all yet. So there we go. Had a great time. Thanks to all the new subscribers. Thanks for your comments. I really appreciate them. Even if they're negative, I learn. No one's an expert at this. No one started out being an expert. And I listen to what you say, and then I ignore you and go and do what I was going to do anyway. But, that's the T-Rock's way. So anyway, I don't want to do a joke, but I got to, it's history. What do you call a rock that won't go to school? A skipping stone. That's how desperate I'm getting. Anyway, if you can think of any better ones, chuck them in the comments. I'm desperate. Catch you next time, and until then, keep rocking.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this stuff, and hey, you made it this far, please help us to poke the algorithm and smash that like button like it's Space 1999. And if you want to see more, subscribe and share this with, say, 1,000 of your closest friends. And let's see just how far that little algorithm can go before its CPU explodes. Copy you later.